The Vietnam War tested America in ways no previous conflict had, dividing the nation and challenging long-held beliefs about duty, honor, and sacrifice. Among those who served were thousands of Native Americans, including many from the Navajo Nation, who carried ancient warrior traditions into modern combat. Today, we uncover the story of Corporal Benjamin Yazzie, whose journey took him from the red mesas of Arizona to the jungle-covered mountains of Laos, where he would make the ultimate sacrifice in a war that officially didn't exist. Before the jungle fatigues, before the combat patches, before war claimed him in a classified operation, Benjamin Yazzie was simply Ben to his family. A young Navajo man caught between two worlds, honoring ancient traditions while navigating modern America. Born in 1949 on the Navajo Reservation near Flagstaff, Arizona, Ben grew up in a landscape that had shaped his people for countless generations, where the sacred mountains stood as eternal sentinels over a way of life both timeless and rapidly changing. The Yazzie family lived in a traditional hogan outside Flagstaff, where Ben's father, Daniel, worked as a silversmith and his mother, Mary, taught at the local elementary school. Their home embodied the cultural complexity of 1950s Native America, traditional Navajo ceremonies and beliefs, coexisting with modern conveniences, ancient languages spoken alongside English, old ways of understanding the world challenged by new realities. Ben's childhood was spent learning both sets of values. From his paternal grandfather, he learned traditional Navajo stories, the proper way to treat the land, and the responsibilities that came with being born into the Dene, the people. From his father, he learned the silversmith's craft, working with turquoise and silver to create jewelry that connected past and present. From his mother, he gained fluency in English and an appreciation for education as a pathway to opportunity. The young Ben was a natural athlete, excelling in both traditional Navajo sports and mainstream American activities. He could ride horses across the high desert with the skill of his ancestors, but he also starred on his high school basketball team, earning recognition throughout northern Arizona. Teachers described him as quiet but determined, respectful of authority but not afraid to ask challenging questions about the world beyond the reservation. The 1960s brought turbulent change to America, and the Navajo Nation was not immune to these transformations. The civil rights movement, the counterculture, and growing questions about American foreign policy created new tensions within Native communities already struggling to maintain cultural identity while participating in broader American society. For young men like Ben, these pressures were particularly intense as they faced decisions about military service in a war that many Americans increasingly questioned. Ben's relationship with his father Daniel was both close and complex. Daniel was a veteran of World War II, having served with the famous Navajo code talkers in the Pacific Theater. Like many of his generation, Daniel rarely spoke about his war experiences, but his service had earned him respect within both the Navajo community and the broader American society. He had used his GI Bill benefits to improve his silversmith business and had become a successful artisan whose work was sought after by collectors across the Southwest. The father-son relationship deepened during Ben's teenage years, when Daniel began sharing more of his wartime experiences and the code talker legacy. These conversations took place during long hunting trips in the mountains, where Daniel would speak in Navajo about the responsibility of warriors to protect their people, about the honor that came with serving something greater than oneself, and about the complex relationship between Native Americans and the United States government. "We have always been warriors," Daniel would tell his son during these mountain talks. "But being a warrior isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting what matters, about standing between your people and harm, about carrying yourself with honor even when others don't understand why you do what you do." When Ben graduated from high school in 1967, the Vietnam War was escalating rapidly. The draft was pulling young men from every community in America, including significant numbers from Native American reservations. Many young Navajo men were enlisting or being drafted, continuing a tradition of military service that stretched back generations despite the complicated relationship between tribal nations and the federal government. Ben's decision to enlist came after long discussions with his family and considerable personal reflection. Unlike some of his contemporaries who were drafted reluctantly, Ben chose to join the Army, influenced by his father's example and his own sense of duty to both his people and his country. His decision wasn't made lightly. He understood the risks and had heard the growing criticism of the Vietnam conflict. But he also felt a pull toward military service that connected him to generations of Navajo warriors. His farewell ceremony, held according to traditional Navajo customs, was both solemn and hopeful. Elders offered prayers for his protection. His family shared stories of previous warriors, and he received blessings that would supposedly shield him from harm. The ceremony concluded with his father presenting him with a small piece of turquoise carved in the traditional way to carry as protection during his service. "This stone carries the prayers of your people," Daniel told his son. "When you are far from home, when you are afraid or lonely or confused, hold this stone and remember that you carry our strength with you. You are never alone as long as you remember who you are and where you come from." Ben's military training took place at Fort Benning, Georgia, where he excelled in infantry skills and demonstrated natural leadership abilities. His quiet confidence and ability to remain calm under pressure quickly caught the attention of his instructors. Fellow soldiers remember him as someone who helped others without seeking recognition, who performed his duties with meticulous care, and who maintained his cultural identity even within the conformity of military life. During advanced infantry training, Ben volunteered for specialized reconnaissance training, drawn to duties that required the tracking and observation skills he had learned growing up on the reservation. This decision would ultimately lead him to assignment with the Studies and Observations Group, SOG, one of the most classified and dangerous units operating in Southeast Asia. His letters home during training revealed a young man adapting to military life while maintaining strong connections to his Navajo identity. He wrote to his father in both English and Navajo, sharing his experiences while asking for advice about how to honor their traditions while serving in the military. Daniel's responses, preserved by the family, show a father trying to guide his son through the complexities of being a Native American warrior in a modern conflict. By early 1970, Corporal Benjamin Yazzie had been deployed to Vietnam, initially assigned to conventional infantry operations in the Central Highlands. His skills as a tracker and his ability to move silently through difficult terrain made him valuable for reconnaissance missions. His letters during this period describe the challenges of jungle warfare, the bonds formed with fellow soldiers, and his growing understanding of the war's complexity. In late 1970, Ben was recruited for SOG operations, highly classified missions that took American forces into Cambodia and Laos to interdict North Vietnamese supply lines along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. These operations were officially denied by the U.S. government, existing in a shadow world where plausible deniability was essential. The men who participated in these missions knew they were involved in activities that could never be publicly acknowledged. Ben's final letter to his father was written in March 1971, just before a mission into Laos that would be his last. Intelligence reports had identified a major North Vietnamese logistics hub in the mountainous region near the Laotian border. A small team of SOG operators, including Ben, was tasked with reconnaissance and, if possible, disruption of enemy operations. On March 15, 1971, Ben's team was inserted by helicopter into the dense jungle of eastern Laos. Their mission was to observe enemy activity for several days before extraction. What they found was a much larger enemy presence than anticipated. During the third day of the mission, the team was discovered and attacked by a significant North Vietnamese force. In the firefight that followed, Ben was mortally wounded while providing covering fire for his teammates' withdrawal. His body was recovered during a later rescue operation, along with his personal effects, which included the final letter he had written to his father. Because of the classified nature of SOG operations, the circumstances of his death could not be officially acknowledged. His family was told only that he had died in action in South Vietnam, a fiction that would be maintained for decades. Before we share Corporal Yazzie's final words to his father, I ask that you take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us continue telling these important stories of Native American military service and sacrifice, ensuring that the experiences of indigenous warriors are never forgotten or diminished by the passage of time. What follows are the words of Corporal Benjamin Yazzie in his final letter to his father, words written in the ancient language of the Diné, translated here for the first time, carrying the wisdom of both warrior traditions and a son's love.
March 12, 1971. Somewhere in Laos. Shije, my father, I write to you from the mountains of a land whose name I cannot speak, where the mist clings to the peaks like the breath of our ancestors, and the jungle below holds secrets darker than any trading post stories. We have been here for 2 days now, watching and waiting, moving through green darkness thick as winter blankets. The enemy is close, closer than our intelligence suggested, and tomorrow we move deeper into their territory. I think of you often in this place, Shije, especially during the quiet hours before dawn when the world holds its breath between night and day. I think of those mornings on the mountain when you taught me to track deer, how you showed me to read the signs that others missed, to move without disturbing the natural order around me. Those lessons serve me well here, though I use them now to track men instead of animals, to hunt those who would harm my brothers, instead of providing food for my family. The jungle here reminds me of the high country above Flagstaff, though everything is turned upside down. Instead of pinon and juniper, there are trees so tall they seem to touch the sky. Instead of our clean desert air, the atmosphere here is thick with moisture that clings to everything. Instead of the silence of our sacred places, this land thrums constantly with life and death. Ta, wa, aji, nasha. I walk in beauty no longer. The harmony I learned from our elders, the balance between all things that the holy people taught us, that balance is hard to find in this place. There is too much anger here, too much fear, too much sorrow soaked into the very earth. Sometimes I hold the turquoise stone you gave me and try to remember what peace feels like, what it means to be in harmony with the world around me. But even here, Shije, I try to honor what you taught me. I try to treat even our enemies with the respect due to all living things. When I must fight, I fight to protect my brothers, not from hatred. When I must kill, I say the prayers you taught me, acknowledging the sacred nature of life even as I take it. The other soldiers don't understand why I do this, but you would understand. You would know that taking life without ceremony, without recognition of its sacred nature, would destroy something essential in my spirit. I had to stop writing yesterday. We made contact with enemy forces and had to move quickly to avoid a larger engagement. Now we are deeper in the mountains, in a place where the mist never leaves and the sound of water dripping from leaves is constant. My sergeant says we will be extracted in 2 days if all goes well, but I have a feeling that all will not go well. There are too many signs of enemy activity, too many trails recently used, too many places where the jungle has been disturbed by the passage of large groups. I want to tell you about the men I served with, Shije, because you would be proud to know them. There is Martinez from Texas, whose grandmother was Comanche, and who understands something of what it means to carry old blood in new wars. There is Johnson from Detroit, who has never seen a mountain but who moves through this jungle like he was born here. There is Lieutenant Hayes from somewhere in New England, who treats all his men fairly, regardless of their color or background. We have become a family here, bound together by shared danger and common purpose. They call me Chief sometimes, but not with disrespect. They know I am Navajo, and they have learned to trust my ability to read the land and sense danger before it becomes visible. In return, I have learned from them, absorbed their courage and their loyalty, their humor that helps us survive the worst moments. Last night I dreamed of home, Shijie. I dreamed of the trading post where you sell your jewelry, of the smell of silver being worked and the weight of good turquoise in my hand. I dreamed of riding across the high mesa with you, checking on the sheep, talking about everything and nothing as the sun set behind the sacred mountains. I dreamed of Shima, my mother, singing to the traditional songs while she cooked, of the sound of Navajo being spoken around the dinner table, of belonging completely to a place and a people. When I woke up, it took me several minutes to remember where I was, to understand that the green darkness around me was real, and the red rock homeland of my dreams was thousands of miles away. But in those few moments between sleep and waking, I was home again. I was whole again. I was myself again in ways that sometimes get lost in this strange war. I need you to know something, Shijie, something I have never been able to say directly, but that feels important now. You have been the best father a son could have, not just in teaching me skills or providing for our family, but in showing me what it means to be a man of honor. Your example during your own war, your dignity in dealing with the challenges our people face, your ability to maintain our traditions while adapting to changing times, all of this has shaped who I am and who I try to be. The code talker legacy you carry has always made me proud, but now I understand it in ways I couldn't before. You used our sacred language to help win a war, but you also used it to preserve something precious that might otherwise have been lost. Our language, our way of thinking, our connection to the land, you helped to keep these things alive by using them in service to something larger. We move out in the morning for what our lieutenant calls a reconnaissance in force. Intelligence suggests there is a major enemy supply depot in the valley below us, and we are tasked with determining its size and defensive capabilities. If possible, we are to disrupt their operations, though our small team seems inadequate for such a mission. I am not afraid, Shijie, at least not in the way you might expect. I am concerned about completing our mission successfully, about keeping my brothers safe, about living up to the warrior tradition you taught me. But I am not afraid of death itself. You taught me that death is part of the natural cycle, that our spirits continue beyond the physical body, that we join our ancestors in a place where there is no more pain or conflict. If something happens to me here, I want you to know that I died as a warrior should, protecting those who depend on me, serving a cause larger than myself, maintaining my honor even in the face of overwhelming odds. Tell Shima that I carried her prayers with me always, that they gave me strength when I needed it most. Tell my sisters that their brother fought with courage and died with dignity. Most importantly, tell our people that Benjamin Yazzie served with honor, that he brought credit to the Navajo nation, that he proved once again that our warriors can stand beside any soldiers in the world. Tell them that I carried our traditions and our language into battle, that I used the skills our ancestors gave us to serve in a modern war, that the old ways and the new ways can work together when guided by wisdom and honor. I must go now. My sergeant is calling for us to make final preparations for tomorrow's mission. The stone you gave me is warm against my chest, carrying your prayers and the blessings of our people. Whatever happens in the morning, I go forward with the strength of generations behind me. Hajo o Nahasdu, until we meet again in beauty. Your son, Benjamin.
Corporal Benjamin Yazzie never returned to the Red Mesas of Arizona. His classified mission into Laos ended in a firefight that claimed his life and officially never happened. For decades, his family was told only that he had died in combat in South Vietnam, the truth about his sacrifice buried beneath layers of government secrecy and plausible deniability. The Studies and Observations Group, conducted some of the most dangerous missions of the Vietnam War, operating in countries where the United States was not officially at war. These operations remained classified for over 30 years, meaning that families like the Yazzies could not know the full circumstances of their loved one's death or receive appropriate recognition for their sacrifice. Daniel Yazzie received his son's final letter in April 1971, delivered by a military officer who could provide no details about how Benjamin had died. The letter, written in both Navajo and English, became a treasured family document, passed down through generations as a testament to both military service and cultural continuity. Daniel kept the letter for the remainder of his life, often reading it during traditional ceremonies honoring warriors who had passed on. The Vietnam War's impact on Native American communities was profound and complex. Proportionally, Native Americans served at higher rates than any other ethnic group, continuing a tradition of military service that stretched back generations. Yet many returned home to reservations, where economic opportunities remained limited and where the broader American society's hostility toward the war sometimes extended to the veterans who had fought it. For the Navajo Nation specifically, the Vietnam era marked both continuity and change. The warrior tradition remained strong, with many young men following in the footsteps of the code talkers who had served so heroically in World War II. But the cultural conflicts that Ben experienced, between traditional values and modern warfare, between tribal identity and American citizenship, became more pronounced as the Vietnam conflict dragged on and public support eroded. When SOG operations were finally declassified in the 1990s, families like the Yazzies learned the truth about their loved ones' service. Benjamin's name was added to various memorials recognizing SOG veterans, and his family received additional medals and commendations that had been withheld due to classification requirements. Yet for Daniel Yazzie, by then an elderly man, these official recognitions meant less than the letter his son had left behind. Benjamin's letter offers us a unique window into the experience of Native American servicemen during the Vietnam War, men who carried ancient warrior traditions into modern conflict, who served a nation that had often failed to honor its treaties with their peoples, who maintained cultural identity while participating in the broader American military experience. What wisdom might we glean from Ben's final communication? What insights does his interrupted life offer about the intersection of tradition and modernity, of tribal identity and national service? Perhaps the first lesson concerns the complexity of patriotism in diverse societies. Benjamin's service wasn't driven by simple nationalism, but by a more nuanced understanding of duty that incorporated both American citizenship and Navajo identity. He fought not just for the United States, but for his fellow soldiers, his family, and his people's warrior tradition. This perspective offers a more sophisticated model of patriotism than simple flag-waving or blind loyalty to government policy. Ben's letter also reveals profound insights about maintaining cultural identity under pressure. Notice how he used traditional prayers and ceremonies even in the midst of combat, how he carried his father's turquoise stone as a spiritual anchor, how he interpreted his military service through the lens of Navajo warrior traditions. Rather than abandoning his cultural identity to fit into the military, he found ways to honor both sets of values simultaneously. There is also, in Ben's words, a remarkable ability to find meaning in the midst of chaos and moral ambiguity. The Vietnam War presented American servicemen with situations where traditional notions of heroism and clear moral choices often didn't apply. Ben navigated these complexities by holding fast to core principles, protecting his comrades, maintaining his honor, treating even enemies with respect, while acknowledging the difficulty of maintaining spiritual balance in such circumstances. His reflection on the nature of warriorship deserves particular attention. "Being a warrior isn't just about fighting," he quoted his father as saying. "It's about protecting what matters, about standing between your people and harm, about carrying yourself with honor even when others don't understand why you do what you do." This definition transcends simple militarism, suggesting instead a broader concept of service and protection that could apply to many aspects of life. Perhaps most striking is Ben's ability to synthesize different value systems without losing his essential identity. He honored both American military traditions and Navajo spiritual practices, found strength in both Christian prayers and traditional ceremonies, served both his country and his people without seeing these as contradictory loyalties. In our increasingly polarized world, his example offers a model for navigating complex identities and competing loyalties. The Vietnam War cost over 58,000 American lives, including disproportionate numbers of minority and working-class servicemen. Behind each name on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was a person like Benjamin Yazzie, someone with deep cultural roots, complex motivations, and family relationships that gave their service personal meaning beyond abstract political goals. Daniel Yazzie understood this truth profoundly. In the decades following his son's death, he became an advocate for Native American veterans, helping to establish support services and recognition programs for indigenous servicemen. He also worked to preserve the stories of Native American military service, understanding that these narratives were essential to maintaining cultural continuity and honoring warrior traditions. When the National Museum of the American Indian was established in Washington, D.C., Daniel donated his son's letter and other memorabilia to help tell the story of Native American military service. He lived to see the museum's opening in 2004, by then in his 80s, but still carrying himself with the dignity that had impressed his son decades earlier. The legacy of SOG operations and the broader Vietnam conflict continues to influence American foreign policy and military doctrine. The lessons learned about covert operations, the importance of public support for military action, and the challenges of fighting in foreign cultures have shaped subsequent conflicts. Yet for families like the Yazzies, these strategic considerations matter less than the personal cost of service and the ongoing challenge of honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Native American military service continues today, with indigenous servicemen and women serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other conflicts around the world. They carry forward the same warrior traditions that motivated Benjamin Yazzie, facing similar challenges of maintaining cultural identity while serving in the modern military. His letter serves as both inspiration and guidance for contemporary Native American servicemen navigating these complex loyalties. The Navajo Nation now honors its veterans with annual ceremonies that blend traditional and modern elements, recognizing both the warrior tradition and the specific challenges faced by contemporary servicemen. Benjamin's story has become part of this larger narrative, helping to preserve the memory of those who served, while maintaining the cultural values that gave their service meaning. As we conclude this journey through one family's encounter with America's most controversial war, we might reflect on the continuing relevance of the values Benjamin died defending. Not the abstract political goals of American foreign policy, but the more personal values of loyalty, honor, and service to something greater than oneself. Corporal Yazzie's letter, written in a jungle halfway around the world from his ancestral homeland, offers us perspective both sobering and inspiring. Identity is complex and multifaceted. Service takes many forms, and the warrior tradition isn't about violence but about protection and honor. Yet within these challenging truths lies hope that we can maintain our essential selves while adapting to changing circumstances. that ancient wisdom can guide us through modern challenges, and that the values we hold dear can survive even the worst that history brings. As Ben wrote to his father from that distant jungle, the old ways and the new ways can work together when guided by wisdom and honor. In our own time of cultural change and challenge, perhaps there is no more essential wisdom than this, that we can honor our traditions while embracing necessary changes, that we can serve larger purposes without losing our essential identity, and that the values passed down through generations can provide strength and guidance, even in circumstances our ancestors could never have imagined. The mesas and mountains of Arizona still stand as they did when Benjamin Yazzie was young, still sacred to the Navajo people, still home to families carrying forward ancient traditions in modern times. In this continuity lies the ultimate vindication of his sacrifice, not that the war he fought was universally supported or clearly successful, but that the values he died defending continue to guide his people and inspire others who face their own challenges of identity, service, and honor. If this story has moved you, if it has helped you understand the complexity of Native American military service and the personal cost of the Vietnam War, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support enables us to continue honoring these stories of sacrifice, courage, and cultural continuity, ensuring that the experiences of indigenous warriors like Benjamin Yazzie remain alive in our collective memory, not as distant history, but as vital wisdom for our own understanding of service, identity, and the warrior tradition in all its forms.